Luis, I got a question for you.
Yes.
My question is well, it's not a question. It's actually a couple of points. One, we've had this fiesta for a long time that it's being downgraded now. Every year, something else is taken away from us. Like to ask you about what set up the religion in the first place in New Mexico, because I know it came from Mexico. What was the point of the Spanish rule in, not the point, but how long were they ruling in Mexico? My understanding is 1500 to about the 1800s.
Yeah. 1521 was the victory, right, of Tenochtitlan, and then until Mexican independence, 1821. 300 years.
300 years.
Yes.
And how important was the religion there at that time with the Spaniards?
All important. All important. If you know Mexico at all, you'll know that everywhere you look, you see a church, right? Despite historical moments in which the government tried to stamp out religion, especially in 3 years in the 1920s. But nevertheless, everywhere you look, you see churches. They're everywhere. Some cities have a church for every day of the year. It's true in Puebla. It's true in Mexico City. It's true. It's everywhere. And that tradition continues in New Mexico.
And how do we preserve it? How do we preserve
historically speaking?
How do we preserve
we also have churches in all the pueblos.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen that, for sure. You also have old churches, among the oldest in America. Among the oldest, you have that. You also have a shrine, Chimayo, which is incredible for people from other places. It's amazing. You have all these things. One thing you have to always keep in mind is this, and I don't want to offend anybody with this comment. Never imagine that church leaders necessarily understand where they are when they're moved to a new place. Never really, they have to be informed. They have to learn, they have to be told. Never imagine that they automatically know, or that all the decisions that have been made in church history in New Mexico have been good decisions. Many, many, many decisions made, especially in the eastern part of the United States. When they had problems with priests, they sent them to New Mexico. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Never imagine, right, that these people always know what they're doing. They don't. They have to be informed. They have to learn. Otherwise, they'll make all kinds of mistakes. And in the Roman Catholic Church, which is my church, and Marty knows this, money talks like in any church. And when you have a bunch of rich people who are making the decisions, who knows what crazy ideas come from those people? My honest opinion.
I understand.
You have to defend your history. If you don't defend your history, no one will defend it for you. You have to defend it for yourselves.
Mr. Vigil is doing that. Organization. They are doing that.
I'm very impressed with what he's doing. I'm very impressed with what he's doing.
And that's what we're trying. And that's what we're trying to do. In fact, today I met with our attorney. Well, remember the union. One of their pillars, like I said, is protection. No, when the mayor came over here and he promised, look at there's a YouTube video that I think that it would be beneficial if you're able to see it. It's by Eli Bransford. Just remember that, Eli Bransford. And he's made a documentary of everything that has happened in Santa Fe. Okay, you'll find it in YouTube, Eli Bransford. I think he's probably on his 5th or 6th video. And that will tell you what has happened in Santa Fe. And the causation of the problems that we're having today is because the people thought that by getting a new mayor that was an outsider, that would be good for Santa Fe. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not. It wasn't. It wasn't because he doesn't understand our history, culture, traditions, and he is trying to change this. In fact, he even stated that he was going to get rid of our fiestas. He did get rid of the entrada during fiestas. Now, the entrada was a play conducted by the Caballeros de Vargas. And the play, what it was uh, the Spanish coming into the city of Santa Fe on horses, and the natives accepting the Santa Fe, and then joining together and being one as one group of people that got along together. Then the mayor got rid of that. The reason the mayor did this is because unfortunately he listened to, well, two reasons. One is he didn't educate himself about Santa Fe. He didn't care. Yes, he loved the beautiful mountains, the 300 plus days of sunshine, the weather, everything beautiful about Santa Fe. But he wanted to change this. And that's what he's doing. And because this man has so much money, he's a millionaire. He has a lot of friends from the East Coast and the West Coast that have a lot of money, and they contribute to him. He's been able to stack the city council with members that are just nothing but yes people. They go with whatever he presents, they go along with it, and that's why Santa Fe is changing, because we have a mayor that controls the city council. City council is a total of 7 members. And then they changed the rules for the city, the charter, where the mayor can now vote, where before he was just a tiebreaker. So there's a lot of things that have been happening that is happening here in Santa Fe that is hurting our history, culture, and our tradition.
I see the same thing happening within the state government the same way. We've got a lot of congressmen and a lot of senators that have come here from out of state. And they're on whatever wagon train that our current government wants to go with. And right now, the current government is wanting to go with helping the Native American tribes, and it's at the cost of everybody else. And the way I see this is we have a lot of people coming in from out of state trying to change the rules here and the way things have always been done. And most of them don't understand that the things that work elsewhere don't work in New Mexico. They never have, and they never will. They end up falling apart. It may work great in Texas, or it may work great in Oklahoma, or up there in Oregon, or wherever, but it just does not work in New Mexico. It ends up backfiring on them. But
I want to touch something what John said a while ago, that he's a coyote. Okay, I have cousins that are coyotes. Okay, remember when Spain came here? They came here with soldiers. They didn't bring women with them. Okay, so what has happened through the years is men have intermarried with women wherever they're at. Okay, so there's a lot of men that have married Spanish women. That's what you call a coyote. My uncle, Patterson from West Virginia, you know, I love my uncle. He was a great man. He passed away. He came here during World War II. There used to be a Army Burns Hospital over here. They brought him here he got injured in Germany. They brought him over here to recuperate. Him and my aunt, same last name as I do, Vigil, they married. So now I have cousins that are Pattersons. But they kept their traditions, even though and you'll see that a lot over here. you'll see a lot of people. My daughter even married a Clark, and she's a Vigil. Okay, and they're from they're Irish. So you'll see a lot of intermarriages that have happened throughout the years because men, the soldiers, never brought women with them.
Pretty much on a ship.
And me,
Well, I'm going to ask the three guests that we have. You just jump in when you want. How can we preserve our culture, our traditions, our heritage, our history? I mean, it's all being destroyed. What can we do? What can I do from Oklahoma now at this point to help out?
Instruction. That's the big thing because our younger generation, they're getting poisoned by YouTube, the boob tube, and everything else, and they're believing all this baloney. Today there was a big test, and you guys probably got it, of the emergency broadcasting system. My mother was paranoid because she was on one of those platforms, and they said, "Oh, they're going to download all kinds of stuff onto the TVs and blah blah blah." So she was frightened, and that's what's transpiring to the youth. They're hearing this stuff on any platform, and they're believing it. And it's up to us to maintain that instruction. Say that's not how it is. This is how it really happened.
the other thing that has happened is in our school system. Our school system is failing us, especially here in Santa Fe.
Yeah, the professor mentioned earlier, they used to teach us New Mexico history starting in third grade. It was segments. It was little bits here, little bits there. But as we got into high school, it was full-fledged New Mexico history. That don't exist no more.
They've taken that away from us. Okay. In fact, I had my two granddaughters. They were playing the violin, and of course, Grandpa went to go see the recital and all that. And I asked my granddaughter, I says, "How come you don't play any Spanish songs? They're when they play." And she says, "I don't know, but I'll ask the teacher." She asked the teacher, and she came back to me and she told me the teacher says that they don't allow them to play those songs, anything that has any Spanish songs. It doesn't, and it's still music. It doesn't matter. It's still beautiful music, but the school system does not allow them to do that.
Right.
What has happened is in our school system has been infiltrated also with those type of people that want to change us. We just had 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. I didn't know this. The school board had a meeting. Well, actually, 5 years ago, what happened was the school board had a meeting and they kicked out the Santa Fe Fiesta, the Fiestas. If you've been to the Fiestas, the Santa Fe Fiesta Council is in charge of the Fiestas. And what they do is they select people to portray Don Diego de Vargas. And then Don Diego de Vargas selects individuals to portray soldiers and the priest, the fry, during fiestas, okay? And they get suited like the Spanish did during those times, all right? They also have, and this was not until much later, until 1950, whatever it was, the Queen came in.
50 some.
In 1950, they said, well, let's have a queen. So they created a queen, and then she has her princesses. What they would do every year for Fiesta Week, they would go to the schools and they would take mariachis with them, music to all the schools. And they go and they meet the children at the auditorium. And the mariachis would play music, chicken dance, and all kinds of fun music that they would play. And the kids would participate in that. And they went to all the schools. 5 years ago, the school board prohibited that from happening. They gave us a bite of an apple by saying, oh, you can only go to the 4th, 7th, and 11th grade. Okay? So that was better than nothing because they kicked us out, the school board controls. This year, they tried to kick us out completely. What happened was, and we didn't know about this because our school board is real secretive because they don't post things when they have the meetings. This person went to go to the school board, to their office, and she noticed that in the minutes they had a subject matter, and that is to remove. They had a resolution to remove the Fiesta Council from attending all schools. Remember, they were attending the 4th, 7th, 11th. Now they're going to remove us from everything. That person called me up. He said, "Did you know this?" And the meeting was going to be in 3 days. I said, "No, I didn't know that." I went down there and I looked at it, and that's what it said. I went inside and I spoke to the lady, second in command, and asked her, "I want to see a copy of that resolution." I went there on the Monday. The school board was going to be held on a Wednesday. And she says, well, at first I asked the secretary, and the secretary looked and says, "I don't have it." Well, let me go get it. She went for the second in command. She came to me and says, "We don't have it." I said, what do you mean you don't have it? This resolution, you're going to kick us? They're going to vote on this resolution? We don't know what the resolution says? So then she went for the superintendent, because I wasn't very happy. And the superintendent came to me and he says, "No, we don't have it yet. We're still working on it." And I said, "Well, I bet you I know who's working on it." I told him. "I bet you it's Sasha Anderson." Now, Sasha Anderson is what do you call an Oklahoma native Indian? She's from Oklahoma. A native England, an Indian from Oklahoma. One of her families was moved there from the Americans moved the Indians to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Anyways, she's one of those type of Indians. She's on the school board now. Okay. So it was her resolution to remove us completely. And I told the superintendent, "How come you gotta have this? But you're gonna make this motion and we don't have it?" He says, "Come back tomorrow. We'll get it to you tomorrow." I went back Tuesday. There was nothing there. It wasn't there. And so what I did is I told a couple of people, and we talked about it. He says, "We got to let our people know what's going on. They're going to kick us out completely." I talked to the Fiesta Council, and I'm also a member of the Fiesta Council. And so what happened is we got the word out really quick via the new mode of communications, Facebook, Twitter, and all that type of stuff. And we got that. And so I went back the following day, Wednesday in the morning, because he told me he would have it. He says, "We don't have it. We got rid of it. We don't have it no more. What we're doing is we're just taking action." Okay, well, let me see what the action is. They didn't have it. Okay. So Wednesday, we felt there was about 200 people that showed up for that meeting. And it was on the agenda, and it was just an action. So people went over there and they started to speak up. Okay, because people are waking up. Because I think what we've been doing is bringing this up to the people. I think they're finally realizing that if we don't speak up, we're going to lose everything. Okay, we're going to lose it. So I think that it was full, and they didn't rule on it. They postponed it to the next meeting. Okay. So the next meeting next week, they postponed it to Monday. Well, on Monday we even had more people there. Okay. The only people that objected to it was these radical natives called the Red Nation. Have you heard of the Red Nation? Look them up. It's a group of they started up in the north part of the country.
They're in the Dakotas, aren't they?
Yes, the north part of the country. They try to stop the pipeline going down to Canada all the way to the Gulf of Mexico and New Orleans. They failed, but they're a socialist radical group, and they're funded. They have a lot of money. We guess that they're being funded by Soros, okay? But those are the people that tore down our monument, the soldiers' monument. Look at that Eli Bransford. It'll tell you everything as to how this has happened, and you'll be amazed at what has happened here to Santa Fe. It's a better explanation than I'm giving you. I got to tell you. So please please look at Eli Bransford.
Will
Santa
do.
Fe, Santa.
Luis, I would like to go with Luis because he participates in something that might help us in Santa Fe and in New Mexico. Every Tuesday, there's a meeting at St. Joseph's Catholic Church where they're teaching Spanish. But Luis participates. He teaches them the culture. Am I correct? And the heritage.
Yeah. Yes.
The Spanish. Can you explain what they do there? Because it might be good for Santa Fe to start something like that there.
Well, let me say this. We're a small operation. What I hear you saying when I hear Mr. Vigil speaking, I'm so impressed that you could get that many people organized and that many people would care and stand against the school board. We're a much smaller group, but you have to understand that also we're looking at a state, Oklahoma, that in the year 1980 had only 50,000 Hispanic people. 50,000. Now, this year, 500,000.
Wow.
That's how fast it's growing. And guess what? It's growing all over the country. Hispanic presence is growing everywhere. Even if a person, let's say, is not really that much in favor of preserving history, they have to understand that this country, the Hispanic presence in this country is growing so fast. Even the politicians can't believe it. Over 10 metropolitan areas now in the US have over 1 million Hispanic people. That's a lot of people. There's 60 million Hispanic people in this country. It's growing very, very fast. So even a person who says, well, I don't care that much about preserving history or traditions, which of course is nonsense and is foolish because it's a person closing his or her eyes to the past. And that's a person who doesn't really care who we are. But that person has to understand that it's in everyone's best interest that we learn more about Hispanic people all over the place, but especially in a place where it's as deeply rooted as New Mexico. That's what I think.
Yes. And
How do you conduct your class, Luis? You know
Well, we
that.
have an hour first, it's a cultural hour. And for the most part, I'm teaching people who are people from the community, maybe 35. It's a small group, but they really don't know the first thing about Hispanic people. So we teach about the history of especially Spain. We learn a lot. We learn a lot about different Spanish speaking places. We have wonderful guests from different places. And then the second hour is devoted strictly to language. And let me say this, no matter what anyone says, you really need, especially in a place like New Mexico, you need to make sure that all your schools are teaching Spanish because look, if you lose the language, you're on your way to losing everything. That's what I don't know.
yeah,
I'd be interested in hearing what you think about that.
well, the problem that we have is, I'll use myself as an example. When I was growing up, there was 4 in a family. I had 3 sisters. My parents spoke Spanish. My abuelos and bisabuelos. I was fortunate that I met my grandpas, and my bisabuelos, my great grandfathers. Okay, we lived in a little commune area, okay, a little community together. Because what happened, what the Spanish did, and this is interesting, they believe in a strong family. Okay, like here in Santa Fe, they believe in a strong family. And basically, what happens, for example, when one of the sons or daughters gets married, the grandpa would say, "Hey, mijito, put your house right there, right by us. You build your house right there," and they did. Okay, so we lived really close knit. We spoke Spanish. When we went to elementary school, and I went to a Catholic school, Cristo Rey. It was run by the nuns of St. Joseph. I didn't know any English. I was held back in the first grade because I didn't know any English. So what has happened, and that happened to a lot of people my age. So unfortunately, what we did is we said, okay, I'm not going to speak Spanish at the house. So our kids didn't learn it. Okay. My kids, I didn't. My kids went out on their own and they learned it. In fact, my daughter went to Malaga, Spain, and she got one of her degrees is in Spanish that she got from Malaga, Spain. I never was had to pay for all that, so I didn't have the money to go visit her. But she got a degree in Spanish from the Universidad. And I forget what I can't remember what it is. Anyways, that's what has happened to us. We ourselves have not continued the Spanish language in our families. The schools don't teach the Spanish in our schools. They don't. And that's because we get teachers here that they think that other classes are more important, which they're not.
Well, they didn't teach it even
And
when I was
but
a kid back in the '60s, though. So we didn't get it back in the '60s here.
yeah,
We had kids speaking Spanish, um,
yeah,
and with us growing up, it was considered Spanglish because they would turn around and throw a lot more Chicano in there than actual Spanish.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
like I said, we didn't even get that as far as learning the language in school unless we specifically requested the class.
yes, yeah.
But is what I
So
see is like
that
right now, I've got neighbors right now that are next door. They came from Old Mexico. Um, the ones behind me are from here, and they speak Spanish, but like my neighbor next door says, it's almost like a different dialect. Um,
yeah,
from what they get down there at the border versus what we get up here in Albuquerque or in Santa Fe or the rest of the state. Um, so yeah, my attitude is it should be taught. I really do. I think it should be taught with as many people as we have that speak Spanish and are from Mexico and from areas that don't speak English. We should have that on our agenda. I mean, our state is heavy that direction. But I can't see it going on in New York, but I can see it going on here.